I'm starting with all 20 gauge square soft copper wires. I have 4 of them cut to 6 inches long, and I have 2 of them cut to 7 inches long. And I can just take my fingers and straighten these wires out, or I can take my plier, hold on to the one end of the square wire on its flat side, and take my nylon jaw, come straight across the wire a couple of times, turn this plier to point upward, and come down the other 2 sides of the square wire to straighten it out. And you'll do that to all of these wires. Just hold the very tip. Don't worry if it's a little bit munchy right there. The rest of them I straightened out earlier. So I'm going to start with my 7-inch wires. I'm going to get both of them lined up on my board, and I'm going to find the center of them, which is at 3.5 inches, and I'm going to make a little mark straight across my wires. So I'll just align this on my board over here. I know you can't see it, but my 7 inches, the 3.5 is right here. So I'll just make a little center mark. On the center of my wires. Now I'll bring my wires to the center mark of the stone, which is this one right here. Make sure that they're nice and straight. And I'm going to mark in between these 2 marks and in between these 2 marks. So it gives me a loop space that's about 4 millimeters right there. Okay, then I'm also going to go ahead and mark the end of my stone, the edge of my stone, and that's just, you can use the edge of your cry cut there to help you figure out where those edges are, the spaces. Alright, and now we're ready to go. I'll take my first 18 gauge wire. We're going to make 2, you can think of them as omega symbols, right? We're going to make a loop, and we're going to bring the wires back out. So here are my center marks. Let me change my camera so you can see. There are my center marks in the middle. This is the middle, and then here are the edges of what I want to round off. So I'm going to put my round nose plier right on that center mark. I got the wrong side facing. I also marked the plier so that I can keep it an even loop size each time. So I've got the mark of my plier on the center mark of my wire, and now I'm just going to make a U shape. If you're working square wires, just try to keep them square. If they turn a little bit, it's okay. Just make a U shape right around your plier, just like that, but don't bring it all the way around. Just make a U shape. Let's go ahead and do the other one while we're at it. Get the mark on your plier, get on the center mark of your wire, and then just push and push up against the roundness of the plier to help you make that little turn. Okay, they should be fairly the same. It's pretty good. Just like that. And now the outside marks, so this is the corner of your stone, this furthest one up. So we need to come between this mark and bend this wire back to horizontal. So I'm going to go ahead and just set my plier probably should have had us mark that one too, but it's okay. I'm going to set my plier just to the right hand side of center, because when I turn it, it's going to want to have space for the turn. So just hold onto your loop. Turn this wire back to horizontal. Same thing on this side. Just come between those two, just like you're making a prong. And make both sides as evenly as you can, just like that. I'm going to do the same with this one. Grab it just to the right hand side of the turn. Right hand side of center. Just take a 90-degree bend. And come to this side. Get between those marks. And just bring it back to horizontal. Okay? You can use a flat nose plier if you need to just sharpen those turns up a little bit. That should be pretty good. They should be fairly similar. I think I got one longer than the other. It's okay. They're going to live on opposite sides. That's pretty close. That's pretty good. Okay, so those are going to be the two center wires in your little wire stack here. Once you get them, just tap them here to make sure they're laying flat. You know, that they're not like that. So if I lay it down, it's flat. And that'll be the center wire. We're going to use 3 wires per side. So I'm going to put my loop here. It's the shorter side of my stone, and I'll use the longer side of my stone for design. Okay? So I've got the 2 shorter 20 gauge wires. If you have a little wrinkle at the end that bothers you, or you know you can't quite get it out, just tap it with your plier. I have them because I held on to it and straightened my wires. Okay, so the loop will go upright and the wires will go to either side of it. So the loop will be in between. And you'll just try to keep all these wires square if you're working square wires. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, so we'll take 2 of your 20 gauge wires and just make sure they're square. Put them down on your cry cut board. Mine are a little, one is a little smidge longer. Put them down on your cry cut board and find the center of the 2 shorter wires and make a mark. So since it's 6 inches, you're marking at 3 inches. You're just going to use that mark to help you center off to this one. It's a little tricky to get them lined up. And I'm going to align my center mark on the 20 gauge wires with the center mark up here just to, and it doesn't have to be perfect, you just want them to be even on both sides. So that's pretty good. The little middle wire is going to be slightly longer. So we'll just tape all that together. I'll get a small little piece of tape. Just going to tear this one in half. And I'll tape it on this one side here to help me hold it. And then I'll set these up in the same way. Find the middle of your short wires. Make a mark. And then you can take the 18 gauge and put it in between the two shorter wires. Get your marks nice and lined up, and then you can come down here and put a piece of tape. So they're all squared together, and they're ready for us to band them. So what we just did was made this little loop in the middle. We're now going to band just past the corners of the stone. So let's get back down here on our measure. You'll put your center marks right down here against your stone, right? And what I want to mark is this corner and this corner of the stone. So I'm actually going to turn them up this way. I just wanted to show you what it was going to look like. I'll take my handy Sharpie marker and come down here and mark where the edge of the stone is. Here's the edge of the stone. So what I want to do is wrap maybe 3 or 4 wraps past the edge of the stone. So pretty much, in my case, it's going to be a full 1-inch wrap, with this being in the very center. So I'll go ahead and just wrap from side to side and make it a full 1 inch so that I can take that bend. What you're looking to do is get your wraps right around the corner and to about here. Alright, so while we're at it, let's set up the second one, because we have to do the same thing on the opposite side. Make sure your loop wire is in the middle. And then in my case, I'm going to mark clear out to the 1 inch. And certainly what we can do is count as we wrap on each side to make sure they're even. And you just want to know, where the edges of your stone are. Oops, let me also mark the edges of my stone. Which are these inside marks here and here. Okay, so that's where the bend is going to happen, and this is where the wrap is going to end. Alright, so now for each side I'm going to use a piece of 22 gauge wire. You can cut 9 inches of 22 gauge half round wire, straighten it out with your fingers, and right here at the upper 1 inch, just turn it down so that the flat side is on the inside of that bend. Come up to your wire stack, hook all 3 of these wires right there at your first mark. Change my camera so you can see a little better. Okay, and I'm just going to go overhand and underhand and count how many wraps it takes me to get from here to here. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I think it's going to be 12 for me, 12, and I'll just use my nylon jaw or my flat plier and tap all of these wraps down. You can straighten this first one by pulling it out a little and bringing it back in a little. So I've got 12 wraps here. Now I'm going to just jump to this other side. Should be 12 from here to here then. This inside mark, I'm going to count to see if it's 3 or 4 wraps is where I need to bend. It's about right here. So I'll go ahead and jump. You can either jump or you can cut 2 pieces of wire. I usually just diagonal over. So from right here at the bottom, just going to motion my wire to the other side. And then I want to come back up I like to just give a little turn right there so that it's easier for me to get this wire back to this side. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Tap it with the plier. 5, 6. Just keep them side by side and keep the tension so that you don't crush these 3 frame wires together. So that's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8. 9. Ooh, my wire is turning a little bit here. You just get a nylon jaw on this. Got a little bit of a turn here at the end. That's okay. I think I got it before that anyway. 9. Let me recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, and 12 gets me to my mark, and that's pretty close. So right there, about 4 marks in, right at number 9 is where I need to turn to make the corner. So it'll be about the same on this opposite side, and it'll be the same for the second piece, you know, the second half of your frame. So go ahead and wrap that one up. It'll be 9 inches of 22 gauge and 12 wraps to either side of your loop. Alright, so after that you should have 2 loops wrapped on, I shouldn't call them loops, but little arches wrapped on 2 frames that are 6 inches long or so. These are a little bit taller than I probably wanted to make them, and I want to make them a little bit rounder, so I already did this one, but what I think I'm going to do, and if you need to, you can do this, is just work the roundness of your round nose plier up in there and tap to open this up a little bit, just like that. You know, it pulls a little bit of wire, but that's okay. I just like them a little more rounded. And you don't have to if you don't want to do yours. Okay, all right. So you can see that if I align my 2 bands up against my stone, I've got 2 nice loops on the shorter ends of my stone, and the wraps I've made are just beyond the shoulders of my stone, about 3 or 4 wraps, depends on, you know, how close or wide you get yours. So I like to line it up again and then carefully remark where I want this bend, about 3 or 4. Mine are 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. So I'll get my flat nose pliers. Let me adjust my camera one more time. Got my flat nose plier. I'm going to get it right here on all of my bands. Be flush with the plier. And I want to bend it right there about at the 4th band. So I'm going to align my plier. I'm going to grip nice and steady, Betty. And now I'm going to just push with my finger. I know that little bit here gets in your way, so it's a little hard to push. But just do the best you can to work the wire over into a 90-degree bend. That's pretty good. And then we'll do the same with this side. Flip it so that you're gripping with the same hand strength and you make the same motion. And I'm gripping just about right on that 4th one. Just get it kind of even, it's okay. As you bend up, glance this side to make sure you're not too far in or too far out. I think I'm okay. I think I'm going to get 4 of them. I like to always just glance that other side as I'm bending. I'm looking for this length to be the same. You know, you can unwrap a band or two if it's too long, but it's this length that you're looking to be as similar as you can. Okay, so that's pretty good. And I'll just, see, I gripped on this side, so this corner's sharper than this corner. So I'll just turn my frame over, do a little squeeze and a little bit of a push, tighten that side up, and then do the opposite side, same thing. You know, you should have some nice square corners there that look fairly even. Okay. You can bring the wire to the stone for a quick fit. That's good. Let me get it down here. Let me adjust my camera so you can see it. Put it down here. A little bit tight on that one side. I want to make sure your stone is sitting up against this. Push. Whoop, don't do that. If you do that, just get it back under control. Don't scare yourself. Put the tape back down and then just get a nice snug fit. These corners are what matter, and that this sits nice and flush against the top. So, you know, just work it until it's nice. And while it's down here, and once you get it aligned like this, my stone is in my measure properly, I'm going to mark the center of this wire right here on both sides. So I'll make sure I'm seated properly here. Hold everything, find the center of this stack of wires, make a little mark. And then just to the left of it, about 1 millimeter, make another little mark. So just like that. Then you can flip this over. Mine is symmetrical, so it's the same either way. And then I'm going to mark the center of the wire And then because this is the opposite side, I'm going to mark 1 millimeter to the right of that wire, to the right of that mark, just like that. If you want to know what 1 millimeter is, it's about the tip of my Sharpie right here. Okay? And then I'll do the same on this one. Turn my stone so that I can make this mark. I'm going to align my wire to my stone, get my Sharpie, and mark these corners. The reason I'm constantly marking the corners is because, you know, my wrap might be off one to the other side. I counted 12, but over here I was a little bit shy by 1 because I got the wraps tighter. So anyway, you can, you know, always add 1 or remove 1 wrap if it's too much. I like to always just go by the corners of the stone. So there are my corners. I'll go ahead and get just to the right of that mark. Change my camera focus again. Get just to the right of that mark. I can, since I have one model bent, I can always align these loops, kind of make sure I'm in the right spot, and it looks about right. You know, I'm holding this kind of a little bit sloppy Joe, but you get the idea there. And then just push. I'm pushing with my left thumb right here, but I'm also giving a turn here. You want to just stay nice and 90 degree. Okay? So that's pretty good. And you can flip it over so that you get a nice sharp corner on this side. Just give it a nice little tap into 90 degree. And now come over here and repeat this. Grip that little mark right there, just to the right of it. And I'm just going to turn these wires up 90 degree. Get your plier on the other side of it to help make a nice even bend on both sides. We do this because you see the plier head is wedged. So one side's always going to be a little sharper and deeper than the other side. So I always just kind of, I call it double tapping, you know, each of these edges so that you get it nice and squared off. Okay, so I've got one more wrap over here than over here. That's okay. If you're really far off, you can just peel one off, right, before you get the stone on here. Just lift that cut wire and then peel one back. Cut it and re-tap it. Just like that. Let's check the fit, and that looks pretty good. So while it's down here, I'm going to make sure I'm seated nice, and then I'm going to make my center mark. And then I'm going to mark just to the right hand side of it, 1 millimeter, because I'm facing this direction. And I'll just flip it. You know, if your stone's not quite symmetrical, then don't flip it. Just mark both sides, from this side and from this side. Mark the center mark, and then I'll mark 1 millimeter to the left of it. Okay? So you have 2 marks on either side of the wire there. Okay, the reason that we do that is because now we're going to bend these out 90 degree on all 4 of these, and when they come together, you know, hopefully it fits perfectly around your stone. Okay, so I'll take I change my camera. So I'll take my plier, not the outside mark, but the inside mark. Put your plier, you know, just right next to it. Brace right here. You can use your thumb right here if you need to, and try to make a nice sharp 90-degree bend. I usually just brace right here and then turn the plier. Right? Nice 90-degree bend just like that. And again, you can sharpen these up. Double tap this side. You see how it expands the wire? Just get a nice sharp corner on both sides that are of even length. Okay. And I'll do the same to this side. You're going to make sure that you're perpendicular, right, with your plier head. You'll get just a breath to the right of that mark. Brace on your finger. Turn the wire stack 90 degree. Keep it nice and straight. Okay, come and double tap. Get a nice sharp bend on there. Okay. So, like this. And that, let me turn it this way, just out of room. Should sit like this. Actually, let me. Like that. You can use your cry cut marks to make sure your wire is nice and 90 degree. And you're not going to be right on that mark. You're, you know, we went 1 millimeter over to each side, right? So that looks pretty good. So we'll repeat with this one. Get just to the inside of your mark. Make sure you're level with your wires. Brace right here. And turn them 90 degree. Try not to let them slant. And then repeat on this side. Okay, just like that. Looks pretty good. Just tap it here and there where you need to. Get it nice and lined up. And hopefully, when these two come together, I flipped it over so that my tape is up in the air rather than fighting it. These two sides should come together pretty well. It's okay if they have the tiniest little gap in between them there. So when they come together, I just adjusted my camera for you. They should meet pretty well here at the center. And I'm going to go ahead and get another piece of tape. It's a little bit squirrely. You want to make sure they align right here at the neck. And we're taping this side so that we can work the opposite side without the frame shifting. So I'm just going to put a nice sturdy piece of tape on this whole thing. My wires here are level, so it's level and it's level. Okay? Turn all that to the inside. That's just to hold it so that we can deal with this side. And from this side, you can go ahead and carefully peel away the tape. And if these are slanted a little bit, don't worry, just get them under control. You can lay the frame down and, squeeze and square things off. Okay, and once we put the stone in there, it'll really adjust. So I'm going to use about 4 inches of 22 gauge half round wire now, and I'm going to tie these two halves together. You might need to adjust them a little bit. There's 6 wires there and they should be sitting nice and side by side. If you need to tap them with your plier, you can just do that. Make sure everything's nice and square and level. Okay. Make sure that you have the flat side face down, and just bend this at the upper 1 inch or so. Slip over the neck. You're going to hold on to the long half over here on the left, and you're going to wrap with the short half towards the frame. Just give it 3 wraps, so 2 of them, and then with this one is 3 of them, and then scooch everything all the way down here. Okay? Give it a little bit of a tap with your plier. Make sure everything's nice and tight. You can just let it hang out there for a second. So your frame looks a little bit like this. And again, we just want to make sure that these will shift a little bit. You just work to keep them level. And once we pop the stone back in, it'll be quite nice. Okay, so I'm going to decide which side is my best side. My stone is fairly symmetrical, so up until now, I don't have a front or a back on this frame. I think this side looks a little bit better. So here at the neck, I'm just going to hold that little one. I'm going to go 4. Here at the neck, this is going to be my front. So here is the front of my frame. I'm dealing with the wires up here. The 2 front wires here, I'm going to pull them straight down. So I like to bend my half round back here like this so I have something to hold on to. Helps a little bit. I'm going to take some flat nose pliers. Do it this way so you can see. I'm going to get just on that very last wire right up against the neck of the pendant. Try to turn this so that you can see it. Oh. So kind of like this. Okay? It can't work that way, but I just wanted to turn it so you could see it. And now I'm just going to bend it straight down. You want to hold on to your frame and just turn to the right and just bend that straight down right there at the neck. Okay? I've pulled it down about 4 millimeter. I'll get my plier right on this other one, on the other side, try to take your time and get your your plier right on that wire where it should be, and then pull it straight down. Not pull it, but in this case I'm turning my wrist to the left to get a straight downward pull. I went a little bit far, and that's okay. And just bring the other side to meet it. So that's probably a proper 4 or so millimeter, 4 or 5. Don't let your frame get out of shape like this. Make sure that they're level, and then make that judgment. That's why we taped it here, but it still slips sometimes, right? So I'm nice and square. My 2 pulls are very even. And this is going to always want to loosen up, as you do stuff here. So periodically, just tap it gently, lower the wires gently. Just leave it there for a second. I leave these for like security blanket. I like to hold on to them sometimes if I need to. So anyway, so about like that. Again, this is the front of my frame. So what I'm going to do now is get my round nose pliers. And you could be down here on your cry cut board also, right? Doing it here. I'm trying to show you up here in the air. I don't have very good focus when my camera goes down there because of the grid. All right, so I'm going to make these little turnouts right here, okay? This one and this one. And we do that by taking these with the round nose plier right here at the corner and grip just off to the right, off of the upper slope, and just make a right hand turn, make a right hand turn, make a right hand turn. Just keep going until you get a little sea wave like that. Okay, so I'll try to do this one upside down here. Let's see. I could put my little finger down here for a pad. So I've got my plier in here and I'm just turning to the left until I get a nice sea wave that is a little bit even to the other side. That's pretty good. It will draw wire from the top as you make that turn. You see these two here? They got a lot shorter because it brought the wire down. Okay, so you have these 2 little guys. They're pretty cute. Make sure to always scooch this neck back down. That's what helps to keep everything under control. And every time you shift wire, this wants to shift its position. So just give a tap at the neck and then scooch those wires back down. Okay, just like that. Because the stone has to fit in between here and the back, I'm going to pull these forward slightly. So holding it right here, you can probably do this best with a plier. Just take right here and bend it out slightly, just like that. So grab right here and just literally lift it up a little bit. Okay, getting it ready for the stone, to receive the stone. So now we'll go to the back on this side. See, things shift. That's why I don't cut it off, because then it's so short it's hard to keep control over. We're going to just make a little tab for the back. You could repeat and just do like that, or you could just leave them where they were dropped in. Okay, so taking our flat nose plier, we're just going to do the very same thing. We're going to get on that very end wire. We get right up against the neck of our pendant, hold the neck, and in this case I'm just going to turn to the right and pull that down. I'll grip over here on that last wire, right up against the neck of the pendant, and I'll turn to the left and bring that wire straight down. Just make them even. This is the back of the pendant. And I don't need to lift it too much. I just need to make sure it's not concaved. It's not caved in. Just want it to be nice and level there. Okay, so you can just leave them like that. That's the final bend on this side. So let's go ahead and tighten the neck back up. My little wire down here twisted. You don't want too many wraps right here. We're not doing a bail. This is going to be a side design. So this is the front of my pendant. I want to make sure the little shorty is facing backwards so that the tip of the cut is looking backwards and not facing forward. And then I'll just tap all that. Okay, same with this side now. Make sure that the wrap wire is going that way so that when I cut it, the end of the cuts are facing the back of the pendant, or connector I should say. I keep calling it pendant. Okay, just tap everything. Make sure those last wraps are nice and tight, and that this is settled all the way down against the neck. Remember always that you're watching that the whole frame stays level. Okay, so there you are with that side. We'll go ahead and switch sides now. So get a fresh piece of tape and tape all this side up. Keep all your wires nice and together 3 by 3, just like that. I'll just take a nice 1-inch piece of tape, and this is just to hold everything steady on this side while I work on the opposite side. Okay, now we'll just peel all this tape off, and we'll just repeat this process on this side. You have that piece of half round we just cut off. Should be about 2 or 3 inches left. You just take that, bend over 1 inch, make sure all your wires are together and that your frame is level. Hook that over and just make 2 or 3 wraps, same as this side. So I made 3 on that side. I'm going to make 3 over here. Tighten up the first one, keep them pointed to the back, slip them down. That's pretty good. And just leave them there while we work. Okay, so we'll repeat the process. Get your flat nose plier. Make sure you're on the front side. Get on the very first wire, right next to the neck of the frame, only the first wire, and then take a right-hand turn, turn right, turn right, turn right, and it'll drop that wire down. Try to be the same. That's about 5 millimeter. I probably went a little far, so I'll push it back up a little bit. Okay, make sure your frame stays level. And then I'll do this opposite side here. Get up against the neck, hold everything, turn to the left, turn to the left, turn to the left. I gotta turn some more. Oh, I was trying to stay on camera. Take it right here. Whoop. And all I'm doing is just turning my plier, not pushing, pulling, or anything. It'll just turn and pull this wire down for you. And level out your frame, right? Make sure it's level there and square. If you need to get the plier and tap it a little bit, I'm not quite square right there, tap it. Tap just the 2 insides, right? Right here. Sharpen it up a little bit. I'm going to shorten this one up a little bit. So I'm just going to go in reverse. I just grabbed it from here and, stuffed it back down there. Okay? Let's pull it back out and make them level. And now get your round nose plier. Well, first tap your neck and square off your wires. Drop this wrap down to the neck if you need to, if it's shifted. You always want to work clean here at the neck because then it helps to keep all this clean and the same measure. All right, so we're pinched right there. I'm going to get my round nose. I'm going to get the top of the tip of the round nose under the frame and then just to the right of it. Then I'm going to turn my wrist to the right until I get a C wave that I'm happy with. And then here on the left hand side I'll go the opposite direction until I get a little C wave that I'm happy with, that matches the other side. And we're going to close them up a little bit, so it's okay that these are a little tighter than those. And now I'll get my flat nose, hold your frame and just pull them forward slightly. Pull them forward slightly. By, pulling, I don't mean make them longer, I mean just bend them out, right? Turn them out. So you've made a little cage for the top of your stone, and now we're going to snap the back on. Well, we'll put it in there and then close the back up here. So we've pulled down the one side, right? And we won't pull down these until you get the rock in there. So let's go ahead and pick our stone up. Get your tape off of it. And down here, where we did pull the 2 wires in the back, your stone's going to slip right in there. It might be tight. Work carefully. Don't wreck stuff. If you need to pull these forward a little bit to help get that in there, you can do that. I like to pull them out so that I have a little seat, that helps me catch them already. Catch the stone already. Otherwise, you can put the stone in there and then pull these back tabs out. So I'm just going to slip it in there like a little envelope. Oof. Just like that. And that hopefully worked out for you quite all right. If you watch this, you kind of get you get the concept of what we've just done here. So then you just snuggle it in there, and we'll settle all that. Make sure that, these shoulders are even. And then here, we have to pull these wires forward. And actually, now that we've gotten the frame and, gotten the stone in there to shift the frame, you can just go ahead and pull that rock out. I would start these because otherwise it's really hard to pull them out. And you've done all this great work. So grip here, turn down slightly and get it pulled slightly. This one, don't go as deep as the other side because we got to get the rock in there. So just pull them out so that you'll be able to reach them after we snap that stone in. So turn it just a little bit, get some shoulders on it, and then take here and pull forward. Make sure they're even. You don't want to make too much motion here, just a little bit, and we'll adjust it when the stone is in there. Okay, so now let's put the stone back in. Slip it underneath there, and hopefully you can whittle it back underneath these two. And now they're pulled out far enough that you can get to them with the stone in place. Make sure that these two are settled. I like to set it down. Well, actually, let's go ahead and cut this. Let's deal with this. Let's sink these two. Let's tap it. Get it all back together again. Settle them down. tap these together nice. Make sure it's close to the stone, right? That you don't have too much room between there and the stone. That's pretty good. And now let's cut these off. And again, you want to make sure that your cuts are facing backwards if you can. If you give it 4 in the front, then you can face these cuts to the back. So pull it forward, take a little snip, take a little snip, get your flat nose, tap those cuts down, make sure the wire is living nice. Okay? All right, whew, we've cut our stone. Now let's go back here. We got 2 little wires to deal with. This one now you can wedge in here and, ooh, get my fingernail in there is better. Okay, so you should make them so that they're like that so you can reach them. I had one a little bit shy, and now here you just repeat the same. Take your flats, pull this wire on, you know, just down, just like we did the other side. Get over here and get on this one, pull it down and onto the stone. This pretty much locks this stone in. Here you can pull these up a little bit, make everything even. This is the back side. So I like to settle it down, get a soft object and just tap gently. Know your stone. Make sure you're not giving too much pressure that you snap it. Just tap gently so that you're settling the back wire so that it sits level. That's all you're trying to do there, is get these wires level. If they poke out like a little bit there, just get your fingernail and literally push those tips in. This wire is soft enough that just push the tip in. Just like that. And that's pretty good. Okay? So up here in front, we're going to tighten these up. Always watch the neck and make sure that it stays settled.